Hi there, everybody. I'm Michelle with Next Chapter Counseling. Today is the second video in a two-part series that I started last week about what it's like to be in a relationship when there is a disability present. So, last week's video was really addressed towards the people who are diagnosed with a disability, whether it be a mental disability or a physical disability, whatever it may be. When you're the one diagnosed with the disability, that can come with certain challenges in a relationship. So last week, that was who the video was meant for. It's for the people living with the disabilities. Today, the video is meant for the partners of the person living with the disability. So if you're in a relationship with someone who's been diagnosed with a mental or physical disability, this video today is for you, to give you more or less some things to think about, consider, try out if you haven't already, to just make sure that this relationship can be as successful as possible. So I'm going to try to get through this as succinctly as possible because there's 4 things that I want to talk about. So I'm just going to dive right into it. The first thing that I really recommend if you're the partner of someone with a disability is to do research on what that disability is. This can be really important, like if you're in the early stages of dating. After you've been in the relationship for a while, you've probably gotten to know quite a bit just through firsthand experience of being around that person that you're with. But it may be that when you start dating someone with a disability, they may say, "Oh, yeah, I'm diagnosed with X." And you may go, "I've never heard of that. I have no idea what that is." Or you may think you know about it, like it may be a disability that you've heard of before. You may have some kind of knowledge of what you think that is. But I can almost guarantee there's going to be a lot that you don't know about your partner's disability diagnosis. So that's the first thing I really recommend, is to do some research. And this doesn't have to be like something where, I don't know, let's say you're on a date with your partner, they disclose their disability, and then you go home and kind of in secret start Googling online, like, what is this about? I would encourage you to have an open conversation with your partner about this, to say something like, "Hey, I really don't know much about that. I would like to learn more. What are some good resources that I can look into?" Your partner will probably be able to steer you in the right direction of like some websites that may have more credible information than others, because there can be a lot of false information out there. So websites that could be good for you to look into, books that might be good for you to read. Whatever it is, tell your partner, "I want to learn more. How can I do that?" And have your partner give you some direction there. And the reason why I make this first recommendation of doing research is because your partner will certainly tell you things here and there about their own experience, and each person is unique when it comes to a disability. You can get 20 people diagnosed with the same thing, but it's going to be a little bit different for each person. You want to be able to respect the uniqueness of your partner's experience and who your partner is, while also having some working knowledge. You don't want it to be that your partner has to constantly educate you on everything, because that can be really, really exhausting for them. So if there's some basic stuff you can find out about their diagnosis, that can be really helpful for the both of you. So research, that's the first thing I recommend. Second thing though that I recommend, which kind of builds on that pretty nicely, is it's important to ask your partner questions, because you don't want to assume that just because you read it in a book somewhere that this is really common, that that's your partner's experience. So I would encourage you, and again, this is probably something that you're going to do more often at the beginning of a relationship, but this is not a one-time deal of asking questions. Questions will come up all throughout your relationship. But especially at the beginning, I recommend being really honest and really unfiltered with yourself, and writing down a list of every question that you can think of related to your partner's disability. And the reason why I recommend this second is because after you've done some research, that's probably when lots of questions are going to come up for you after you know more about what the disability is. So make a list of questions. Your list may be 3 questions long, your list may be 30 questions long. It doesn't matter. Make a list and bring it to your partner and say, I looked into the resources you recommended, and I have some questions that I'm really curious about. And your partner may not want to answer all the questions in one sitting. You may not want that either, because that can be a lot. That can be overwhelming, especially if you have a lengthy list. But start chipping away. Ask a couple questions at a time until you get all your answers. And hopefully your partner will be really open with you about their experience. And hopefully this will be something that your partner appreciates, because it shows that you are curious and you want to learn more, and you don't just want to make assumptions or assume that, oh, well, it's no big deal. This really shows that you want to understand what your partner is going through and how that it impacts you, because it will, and it does. So that's the second thing. Moving on to the third thing. So last video, I talked about this concept of elephant in the room moments, is what I call them. So these are the moments where, after you've been around your partner enough, depending on what their disability is, it may not be something you even really think about or notice much. You just kind of get used to it. But then there can be these moments where the disability really comes to the forefront. This can happen a lot of times when you guys are in public, when you see other people's reactions to your partner's disability. This may be, you guys might be doing an activity that you don't normally do, and then the disability might show up in whatever way that it does, as maybe being a barrier to your partner being able to do that activity. It could look like a variety of things, but I call them elephant in the room moments. And what's really important as the partner of someone with a disability is that when these moments come up, you validate your partner's experience. Your partner may notice things as the person living with the disability that you may not be aware of at all. You may not notice the stares. You may not notice that somebody was acting in a biased or a prejudiced way towards them. You just may not know. But if your partner tells you about it, validate them. Say something like, oh, yeah, that's really unfortunate that they treated you that way. That isn't right. Or, yeah, I could understand why you felt frustrated. Or just, yeah, that's hard. And just validate and listen to them. The worst thing you can do is to say, oh, it wasn't that bad. Or no, I really think you're over exaggerating. Don't go there. Just validate their experience. And try to understand it as best you can. So really make sure in those moments that you're responding from a place of empathy for your partner. So that's number 3. Very last one here, number 4, also kind of building on number 3, is to make sure that you're validating your own experience. Here's the reality. Living with a disability is hard. Being the partner of someone who's living with a disability is also hard. Depending on what the disability is, the severity of it, the impact that it has on your partner's life, there may be times where you take on more of a caregiver kind of role. And this can be something where you feel like maybe at times you have to be the rock for your partner, and you have to keep it together, or you have to help them. And here's the thing, you need help and support too. And your partner likely wants to give it to you. So if there are days where you're really struggling, rather than just being like, oh, it's not that bad, I just have to keep going, validate that struggle. Just be able to pause and be like, yeah, today's a hard day. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling tired, whatever it is. And, if you feel comfortable, share that with your partner. Just be like, yeah, today's a hard day. And it's hard because I'm pretty tired. And, it's something that your partner can't help, and they probably already feel a lot of guilt about how their disability may impact other people, but they'd also probably rather have you share that with them than try to pretend like it's all okay when you're having a hard moment. So just being able to really give yourself some validation is huge. And along with that, if you can find other people who share your experience, I highly recommend that. Hopefully your partner knows other people who are diagnosed with the same disability that they are. Those people may have partners. So more or less, if your partner has a friend who has a partner who is also in the same boat as you, where their partner is diagnosed with the same disability that your partner is, like, lean on that person. Find people who get it and who will be able to understand what you're going through, and use them as a sounding board and be a support person for them. That can be the most validating thing that you can do. So that's what I got for you guys. I'm just going to try to sum it up real quick. First thing is to make sure you do your research so you understand your partner's disability. Ask your partner questions as often as you feel like you need to in your relationship, but especially at the beginning. Validate your partner's experience in really difficult moments, and validate your own experience in really difficult moments. So hopefully that helps with giving you just kind of, hopefully this video is validating for what it's like to be the partner of someone with a disability. So if you have a question for me about love, relationships, anything in that realm, send it to me in an email and I will answer it in a future video. nextchapter.michelle@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody.